I started this book without ever reading or watching anything related to it. And I gotta say, so far, it will go straight into my reject shelf. If you want to know why, stay tuned. Welcome to Biblioccultist, where I review books that I find interesting in the topics of religion, philosophy, history, and fiction. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, and comment on the video. Also, remember to follow me on X and check out my merch store if you want to support the channel. First of all, I know I will get some hate for this review, because it is a very popular series, especially those that watch the series. Again, I've never watched it, and I don't intend to either. Especially when I go through a series, I think the television shows and movies ruin books, with very few exceptions. But even if I get hate for it, I still have to be as real as I can be, because that's the whole point of this channel, is for me to give you my opinion and my perceptions, which are obviously subjective. I am not the Ayatollah or the Pope of books. I am simply a person with an opinion based on my years of reading books and my love of books. So even a book I criticized, I still enjoy the process. If not, I wouldn't even mention the book in my channel. In this episode, I'm going over The Witcher: The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. And hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. This edition I have is actually pretty nice, by Orbit Books, and it's from 2021. I will provide in the pinned comment my Amazon associate link, through which you can find the book and purchase it through that link, or anything else you want through that link, and the channel will get a small percentage of the sale, and it will really help the channel out, and I appreciate it. And you can find through that link any edition that you find interesting of this book. But this is the one I have, and I actually like the quality of it. I like the cover, I like the art in the cover, so it's very nice. Now, I'm reviewing the series in the order suggested by the author himself, even though this book in particular was published later on as a prequel of sorts. But because this order was suggested by the author and also fans of the series, I am going that route. Now, I am aware that the order of reading the books may affect my perception of them, because this is really a collection of short stories that seem to be in that world, but they seem to be happening prior to the main story. So I can understand why this would be the first book suggested, but it could also affect negatively how I see the characters, because it's a very disjointed collection. When I first started reading the book, and I will not give spoilers of the book, it's just not something I do in my channel, but I just discussed the content. When I first started reading this book, I thought the characters were ironic, that it was a satire of sorts of the fairy tale genre, and it may still be just that. It may be that there is a tongue-in-cheek element to the story, but after reading through the entire book, I'm just not sure that is the case. It seems to be maybe lightly satirical, but I think that the book is meant to be perceived as it is presented. So I was disappointed, because when I first started reading, I thought it was going to be a somewhat comical presentation of the fairy tale. But then I realized it wasn't, basically at the end, so I was disappointed in that sense. The absolute mountain of tropes and cliche elements in this work is absolutely ridiculous. And again, I was thinking all along it was a critique, but as I persevered through the reading, I realized that it was not. And the effect of realizing this was a huge disappointment. Another aspect of the character, especially the Witcher himself, Geralt, is his relativism. The characters seem to view themselves as amoral. Basically, the character is just doing a job. He's a bounty hunter. It reminds me a little bit of the Han Solo character, actually, but without the personality. More of a kind of worn down, cynical, somewhat depressed grunt of a sort. That is just cynical about existence, and that's okay for a character. A character can be whatever the author wants him to be, but it seems to be superficial. It doesn't seem to really develop further than just being a cynical character. And I get the whole motif. It's kind of like an Old West fairy tale mixture. But so far, it just makes him unlikable. That could change further on in the series, but that's how I see him. The introduction of Yennefer is also a strange character, although I do think she's better constructed than Geralt. But she's also a very petty character, and it's difficult to see profundity in her. She seems to be kind of a superficial witch of sorts. I do find that to be interesting from a cynical point of view, from a comical point of view, but again, I think it remains in the surface so far. Now, I am aware that this book was composed in Polish, so translations do make a difference, but the dialogue is so dreadful and somewhat infantile that I don't think it's the language. I think the characters are meant to be somewhat immature in a weird way, which made me think that this is probably a book for teenagers. But once you read through it, you realize the graphic nature of a lot of the content, so it may not be. Although probably when I was a teenager, I would have actually enjoyed the book because I would probably get the humor on it, probably found the graphic nature of certain scenes to be cool and edgy. So I guess if it's directed at a very young audience, then yeah, that would work. But for me, reading it at this point in my life, I just couldn't really see how this could be really honestly be directed at adults. So most fantasy series contain some kind of philosophical insight, right? But this one falls short. It just doesn't have any of it. You therefore inhabit a gray world with superficial characters that basically lack the depth of exploring anything intellectual or spiritual. So no dimensions. And I know that certain parts of the book, and I marked some of them, they discuss religion and they discuss these things, but it is so entry level, so basic, that it's either purposeful or the author is just not willing or interested in ever delving into this topic, maybe to keep the work at the level that it is. It reminds me of Lovecraft in a way, because Lovecraft, he himself would say that he was not really good or comfortable making characters because he didn't really care about people that way to build them as characters. He didn't know enough people to build a character that was realistic, so that he would focus more on the environment, on the mood of the short story that he would write. So the character really is the ambiance, the presentation, the location, the scenario. That might be the case here. He wants you to just immerse yourself in this world, but if that is the case, he seems incapable of building a place I want to inhabit for a long time. So I think the mockery of the fairy tale genre makes it difficult to swallow the environment that he has generated. Is it a joke? Is it funny? Are the vampires real? Are the monsters real? If they are, why are they silly? Or why is this world behave in this particular way? Again, doesn't have the political depth of many other fantasy novels that kind of gives you a context. It doesn't have the spiritual or mythical element. It doesn't have a mystical element. So it seems to fall short in all these categories, what makes it difficult to immerse yourself in his world. So to me, this has to go in the reject shelf just because I just didn't find it pleasant and not even partially interesting. Although, because it is such a popular work, it is the kind of thing that you should read. And that's what's interesting about this kind of novel. And I discuss this with people. They always ask me, if you think this particular genre is a waste of time, then why would you even go into it? Why would you read a book that is very popular, even if you know that it's probably going to be terrible? And the reason is because it has a social impact. Reality and perceptions are tightly bound. And if people read these books and enjoy these books, and then it becomes part of cultural parlance, you have movies and you have all this media that develops out of it. That means that even if the work sucks, it is impacting people's lives, and therefore there's a sociological, cultural import to the work. And therefore I read it for that reason, because I want to see why people are enjoying it, what about it, what's interesting. And if there's a critique that I can make in the positive or the negative about it, then I think it's worth it to enter it instead of just dismissing it outright. People like it, it's popular, there must be some element in it that's interesting, or at least it may help explain why certain works become popular when maybe I think they shouldn't, but that's just my personal opinion. But knowing about it, I think it's relevant if you want to understand the human experience. So hopefully you enjoyed the book, and hopefully you're not too mad at me for putting this in the reject shelf. But again, if it's something I don't like, but I still think that it may be something that you like. So maybe my critique is something that encourages you to actually read it. It could happen. I've actually seen people critique books saying they hated them. I felt inclined to read them for that very reason, and I ended up liking them. In other times, people say a book is terrible, and it is terrible. So that does vary. Hopefully you just enjoy the review, and you can put your comments in there and we can discuss it. And I love discussing books and the positive and the negative. So please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Click that associate link if you want to get the book or any other item that you need for your household, and it will really help the channel out. So thank you for being with me. See you next time.